Hello everyone, welcome to the spoiler talk for Superman. Hopefully I remember enough because I am recording this actually on the 9th of July, meaning that, oh hey, there is a full plot summary on the DCU wiki. That'll help me out a little bit. If I ever stumble, I can look at this thing if I don't remember it correctly. So, let's get into this, but before we really do, since it's a spoiler talk, I want to say the main thing that I thought was stupid was the whole Eve having pictures with every document that exists so we can take down Lex. I found that really convenient. Like, really? That's it? That's how you get the plot done, okay? I've heard people complain about the whole Lex having tech to a pocket dimension and that being the big finale thing, and also Lex having like the off switch. I think that is actually what people mean when they have problems with this movie, but for me, it's more like Eve just has the basically take down Lex button. She just has all the pictures. Like, what was that all about? Found weird. Also, why did Jimmy Olsen not like Eve at all? We never get an explanation. It's just like whenever Eve is like, oh, hey, I want to hang out with you. He's like, yeah, well, you know, I kind of stubbed my toe and that kind of gave me a hiccup, and that hiccup caused my head to go into the ceiling. So I'm sick and I can't go. It's like, well, why do you not want to hang out with her? Like, what happened between you two? I want to know that. And it's like, we don't get that. Also, why is Jamie Olsen now a ladies' man? Don't really understand that. Anyway, this movie starts off with a big wall of text in that sense. How, like, decades ago, we had, like, metahumans first appearing. And, like, 3 years before this movie happened, Superman first appeared to the world and he shared it. By the way, something I forgot to also say in my Superman review. I really wanted to say it, but because of the fact that I really need to get this done, I actually forgot to say it. But, like, I'm wearing a Superman shirt right now because obviously gotta support the boy, the Man of Steel, love him. And when I actually went into the movie theater with my sister, there was a dad and a kid sitting next to me, and when I wanted to sit down, he was like, oh my god, it's Superman. I was like, don't worry about it, call me Kal-El. And we both laughed about it. But he said that because his son was like saw my Superman shirt and I didn't expect a reaction. But like, there was one other guy who wore a Superman shirt. I was disappointed by that, but I did have some fun with that dad. I enjoyed that, you know, thought that was funny, and that was actually something that really happened because I couldn't make that up at all. But I was like, call me Kal-El because, you know, I'm not at work. I said it in Dutch, so I'm trying to do a rough translation. Anyway, back into it. So Superman gets beaten. That whole him crashing in you know, the ice, that is the opening of the movie. He got beaten by this guy who I don't even remember his name, but he is from this country that doesn't exist, but I guess it exists in the DCU. Anyway, he's Ultraman in disguise, and that is also how he's able to do what he needs to do. But like, Superman gets beaten, he calls Krypto. Krypto comes down, breaks his ribs more than it should, which, you know, I could kind of understand. I mean, I don't know if Shadow would do that with me, but I know some things Shadow would do. And so I can relate to that. So then Superman gets Krypto to get him back home. And once home, the robots are there and they heal Superman. Superman sees a message from his parents. However, that message is only 50% done because the other 50% got damaged in the crash. So he never learned what he needed to do. So basically, his parents told him to be a good boy. So then he gets healed by the sun, which people had big problems with when they saw that in the trailer, where it's like, why is he getting hurt when he's being healed by the sun? I think it's more like his body being put together in that sense, because they do make it clear that he has broken ribs. So those broken ribs need to be fixed. So for me, I think it's more like his broken ribs being fixed. That is what hurts him, because at the end of the movie, he also gets healed by the sun, but then he's just like, the sun. You know, he's like basically sunbathing, but here it's like, because I think it's just like his bones healing. But once he is 80% healed, he goes back to fight the guy from Boravia. That was it. That was the place called. But also, yes, for anyone wondering, this is basically, it feels like a talk about the whole Palestine and Israel conflict, or even Ukraine and Russia. But with the way that they speak, I think this is more about Israel and Palestine. I'm not gonna talk more about that. I've seen people have issues with it, and yeah, I noticed it too, but it didn't impact my enjoyment of the movie because it's just like, okay, fine, whatever. But Superman goes back to fight the guy. However, he once again gets beaten, but it allowed Lex to get what he wanted, because apparently Lex is in control of this guy. I'm just gonna call him Ultraman because later on it's revealed that he's Ultraman. But Lex is basically in control of this guy, also kind of feeding him like battle moves like A4, S15, that kind of stuff, in order to beat Superman. So obviously Lex is behind this. And then Ultraman flies away, and then he goes through a portal that causes him to be in a pocket dimension, and then he goes through that pocket dimension in order to get back into LexCorp, takes off the outfit, everyone is happy. Superman is like, well, okay, well, at least I kind of saved the day, you know? I mean, whatever. Then after that, he's in Clark Kent outfit, and he goes into the Daily Planet. Also, we have Lex with, like, I don't know, the department of, like, whatever. Also, we have Rick Flag there as well. Very nice. But we have basically Lex talking with these other people, including Rick Flag, about the dangers of Superman. However, they will not attack Superman because of the fact that they're not sure. And you should not attack unless you are sure that it's the bad one. But, like, Superman might be a good guy, you know? I mean, he has been doing a lot of good. So they are scrapping Lex's initiative because he wants to have a metahuman army that he can control. That is basically the gist of the movie. Kind of. Because obviously it also comes back down to the fact that he wants Superman dead. Also, while Superman got punched down by Ultraman, there was a vendor there who is called Malik Ali, and he came over to Superman. Becomes a little more important later on. The Hammer of Boravia. That was his name. But then also at the Daily Planet, Clark is like, I had an interview with Superman, which is like, okay, so you were just interviewing yourself. Lois grills him about it, which apparently was just some playful time, because they are actually in a relationship. However, it seems like they've only gone on a date once, which I feel like that is a little bit too soon to reveal the secret of, hey, I am Superman. But whatever. These two are meant to be together, so I'm not gonna complain. And then they have a nice time together at the house until Superman is like, why don't you interview me? Which Lois immediately shuts down, being like, no, you're not gonna like it when I interview you. And he's like, yeah, sure, interview me. So she interviews him, and initially it's kind of going wrong. It just goes wrong kind of immediately because she talks about how the jurisdiction that he has, and he's like, I was trying to save lives. That is what I was trying to do. And yeah, that immediately kind of goes wrong. Then they have another talk, continuing the interview in a different way, and he's like, I came from, you know, I'm an alien to this planet, and I'm from Krypton, and my parents sent me here in order to do good. That is why they sent me here. But eventually this whole thing kind of goes off the rails, and Lois is like, maybe dating was a mistake. And then he leaves, which is like, okay, why did he leave? I mean, that is the moment where you actually stay if you truly want your woman. That is the moment that you stay. You talk it out, okay? You're not just gonna leave. That is not a good moment to leave. Also, the whole reason that Clark got attacked by Ultraman, well, one of them was also because of the fact that we had the engineer search for the Fortress of Solitude, which she finds, and then later on Lex appears there after the whole Lois and Clark scene, and he somehow is able to have access to the Fortress of Solitude. Like, the Fortress of Solitude rises whenever Superman, or I guess Krypto in a sense, are nearby. However, it rises for Lex. Lex is there with Ultraman and also with Engineer, and it's like, how is he able to let it rise? I was like, oh yeah, Ultraman, that's why. Because yeah, it is Ultraman, because Ultraman is a clone of Superman, which that just gets thrown in. It's like, hey, that's a clone of you. Okay, cool. Apparently Lex made a clone of Superman. Sure, why not? You know, I'm not gonna complain about this. I very much enjoyed actually basically just a mute version of Superman, but that is how he's able to get access, how the doors open. However, then the robots are like, Superman, you're back. Oh wait, you're not Superman. And then the engineer takes care of all the robots together with Ultraman. However, there are some explosions that happen right next to Lex's face, and he just doesn't even flinch. I would have liked it if he flinched a little bit, because no matter what, if an explosion happens next to you, it's still an explosion in that sense, you know? Like a robot gets destroyed next to you, you would flinch automatically. It's just an automatic reaction. But no, he needs to look cool, so he goes up and he has Engineer hack the system in order to search for anything incriminating on Superman, so that he can take Superman down with the public, and that he can get his army that he wants. However, what she finds is actually the second half of the message from Krypton, which, by the way, that was a big actor that they had. I forgot his name. He played, I think it was Face in the 18 movie. I forgot his name. But, like, they had a big actor play, like, Jor-El, and I was like, oh, okay, that was actually pretty cool. Bradley Cooper, that's the name. He was the one who portrayed Jor-El, and it was like, okay, that was actually pretty cool. I like that, you know, a little big cameo, but like, it's just a cameo. However, they don't speak English like in most other movies, so it was kind of a little bit jarring for me. But apparently, once translated, that second half of the message actually tells Superman to get a harem of women and repopulate the earth with half Kryptonians. So that isn't really good. Also at nighttime, apparently two guys are unleashing like a monster, like that big monster from the trailer that just breathes fire and stuff like that, because of the fact that they need Superman distracted while they go to the Fortress of Solitude. Like I said, this might not be in order because I need to do this kind of from memory. So Superman fights that thing, and at this point, the Justice Gang, not official name according to Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific, arrive. We have Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, and Green Lantern, and they help Superman take care of the monster. However, Superman is very clear that he wants that monster to live. He doesn't want to kill it. He wants to study it so that they can maybe, like, you know, put it at a better place. But then Mr. Terrific just throws a couple of bombs down his mouth, and, well, boom goes the dynamite. The thing is dead. Superman is a little bit disappointed about that. However, at that point, also, once everyone's like, yay, Superman saved us, we get the message revealed, and then everyone instantly starts hating Superman, because, like, yeah, okay, we went through a lot of translators. The message is clear. Apparently, Jor-El wanted him, and also his mom wanted him to just, like, rule Earth. And it's like, that is kind of weird, because I don't really remember any other Superman adaptation to do that kind of stuff, so I don't know if I like this change. But I also, like I said, I'm not a comic book reader, so maybe this is something that they did in the comic books. It's just like also Pa Kent being alive. That one shocked me. Like, he is alive in this movie, and I always remember him being dead in the movie. He gets a heart attack or sucked up by a tornado in the Man of Steel movie, so him being alive, which actually did happen in the comics, just kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop. But basically, this causes everyone to hate him, and then he goes to a building. Green Lantern kind of blocks everyone from being able to see anything. He's like, I'll take you down if I have to. And Superman's like, that is not the message that I know about. I know nothing about any of this. However, when he realizes, wait, they got the message from my parents, he instantly rushes it over to the Fortress of Solitude, sees the damage that has been caused. Crypto is gone. He flies back to Lex, and he's like, where's the dog? And this is where you get the full scene, so you understand why. Look, his world just came crashing down upon him, okay, with the fact that his parents apparently wanted him to rule Earth and not save Earth and protect it like he thought he would. Also, he took the dog, he broke into his house, he butchered all of his robots. He's mad, and I think it fully understands this scene, and he's like, where's the dog? And Lex like, stupid dog with a cape. So now Superman doesn't really know what to do. He cannot get Lex to give him the dog because of the fact that he cannot do violence, which apparently he actually did to the leader of Israel. I mean, Bravia, that place. But apparently he put him up against the cactus and told him to stop being a baddie, which apparently did not really work. So then Superman goes home. Obviously Lois is there as well, and he's just like basically recapping everything to her and being like, I don't know what to do. And also then he tells her that he loves her and he's gonna turn himself in, kind of what he did in Man of Steel. It's just a Superman thing to do at that point. He doesn't want to fight humanity. He'll just turn himself in. Problem is, he gets to hand it over to Lex's like special people, and then Lex puts him in a pocket universe. However, since there apparently is no more kryptonite, we need another way, and enter Metamorpho, who actually is able to conjure up kryptonite, and he holds Superman down because of his kryptonite in the same cell. So they get taken into a cell block. Metamorpho is like, look man, I'm only doing this because my son is being held captive and I don't want anything to happen to my son, so I have to do this. I'm sorry. And Superman's like, I can get to him, okay? I can get to him. Just stop. And he's like, I can't risk it. However, later on, Lex then comes in with a hostage, and that is actually that guy from earlier that I talked about, whose name I already forgot. I apologize. Like I said, it's been hours since I watched the movie. The fact that I remember it this well is surprising, because I have only really once needed to look at the doc, and that was in order to figure out the name of that one place that I once again forgot. Moravia, or whatever it was called. Anyway, then he basically plays Russian roulette with the guy. However, the second bullet kills him, and he's like, I need another one. And I'm like, yes, the humor that always happens. Nah, sorry, dude. I did not really like the reaction that he had to that, where he was like, I need another. I still think Nicholas Hoult did a really good job, but like, it felt a little bit too much with the humor. It felt like it was more comedic than anything. However, this causes Metamorpho to be like, oh no. Also, by the way, while all this is happening, Lois is trying to investigate Lex. She doesn't really get much on him. So then later on, she heads over to the Justice Gang, not official name, and asks them for help, and they're like, no, we're not gonna do that. But Mr. Terrific is like, yeah, sure, I'll help. And Superman will take it to this location, and then they head over there. And then when they're there, all the soldiers, I guess, are like, you're supposed to leave. And they're just continuing to walk. He even creates a hologram for like Superman where he went, because apparently he went to a tent and then disappeared. So then once they start to attack, Mr. Terrific protects Lois and himself from the shots, and then he jumps out of the bubble in order to take everyone down. And this is the scene that I meant where I said I really like Mr. Terrific. And this was also the scene that made my sister go, he can be cool. He cannot be just a smart guy like a nerd. He's just a nerd in Arrow, but here he's actually a cool guy. But he takes down everyone. sun. And then he continues on. It's like, oh no, Lex made a pocket universe, so it is true. And that is actually really close to a black hole. Each time you use it, it could go wrong. So obviously, for the end of the movie, this is gonna go wrong. So then he opens one in order to find Superman, sends his balls out because apparently his balls cannot turn into like, you know, the Silver Surfer board. Sorry, got some Fantastic Four on my mind. I actually saw the trailer for Fantastic Four as well. But anyway, once Metamorpho sees the fact that the dude was killed, he's now like, okay, I'm gonna help you. You said you can get my son, right? So he's like, no. So he gets rid of the kryptonite. However, Superman isn't healing because he needs a sun. So he's like, well, I can kind of create something like a sun. And he just like starts building something. Also, by the way, this is also where Lex laces his ex-girlfriends, apparently. Sure, why not? But anyway, he creates something like a sun and everyone is like, hey, guards, please stop him because we didn't do anything wrong. However, the guards don't really do anything until the light turns on from the sun. And this causes Superman to heal enough. He breaks through, takes the guy down, saves the sun, and now they need to get out of there. However, Metamorpho can't carry the sun because of the fact that when he's transformed, he can't do that kind of stuff. So Superman now has to take care of the sun. So they fly off, but Superman first also rescues Krypto. But then anyway, they fly off in order to find an exit, but then they get attacked. We have a cool battle in this place. Very much liked it, actually. Superman gets put into this river where he actually can't get out of, and then he gets stuck into like the black hole. So he gets stuck in that pool. So he can't get out. Krypto obviously doesn't listen. I felt like now it was kind of getting a bit redundant, but then at the end of the movie it's explained why. So then Superman grabs Krypto and also Metamorpho, and he just starts to use his breath in order to blast himself back. They get out, and then they find Mr. Terrific's thing, and he's like, okay, take me out. So they all get out. Everybody gets out. Metamorpho walks off with his son. Very nice. He later on joins the Justice Gang in order to help as well. So then Lois takes Superman back to the Kent farm, and we get a really emotional scene between Superman and his dad. Also, we got an emotional scene between Superman and the dead robot, and I really like the emotional scene between Superman and his dad. I thought it had a lot of heart. The way that they talk, I liked it. You know, it really felt like Pa Kent was talking to Superman, even though he was older, so talking was a little bit difficult for him. And that's it. However, while all this is happening, Lex is becoming very upset about the fact that Superman is free now. So he's like, then let's give Superman something that will destroy everything. And he basically starts cracking open the world through his portals. And he has a way to stop it, but he's only gonna do that once he actually has taken down Superman or whatever. Also, at this point, we have the fact that the attack is going to happen on, like, between, you know, the two states. And Superman now has to go over there to help. However, Mr. Terrific is then like, hey, I need your help here. Also, while this was happening, Eve sent Jimmy a lot of photos of herself. However, then she gets caught, put in one of those pocket dimensions, obviously. But apparently in the background of the photos is like the whole plan, in a way. Basically, Lex wants to take over part of the other country and turn it into his own country where he can be king, kind of like that. That at least seems to be, but that's why he gave a lot of like free weapons to Moravia in order to be able to have his own Luthoria. That's actually, I'm seeing it here in the wiki. That is what it was called. So Luthoria, that's what he wants to make. And this was kind of where I was like, you just really, just the background, like she takes pictures with like these sensitive materials. How did Lex allow this? And she didn't even take pictures. She takes selfies with that stuff. It's like this incriminating stuff. It feels weird, and I did not really like that. Anyway, so Superman decides to go to Metropolis, and he's like, don't worry about it. The other two countries I got handled, and we have Green Lantern, Metamorpho, and also Hawkgirl appear in order to stop the war between the two countries, while Superman has to deal with everything. However, he then has to fight Ultraman and also Engineer. I forgot about that one. I was kind of talking about later. And the plan is to have Superman's lungs be filled up with all of the like nanobots in order for Superman not to be able to breathe. So she does that. She completely envelops him, kind of, his face at least. However, he then starts to fly up really high, and then he comes down really hard. Now he's gonna survive it because he is protected thanks to the fact that he is cocooned in nanobots, and that causes him to be able to free himself. However, Ultraman is still there, and that crash caused Ultraman's mask to fall off. And yes, here we get the reveal that he's a clone of Superman. So then Lex once again tells Ultraman exactly what to do in order to be able to beat Superman. However, then Superman calls in Krypto later on in order to be able to destroy the cameras, and which also is how Lex gives orders to Ultraman, which like really no earpiece at all. Okay, that I found a little bit dumb as well. Like he should have given him an earpiece. Like, well, really, these cameras are all that's there. But Krypto destroys the cameras, and at this point Superman takes the upper hand and he's able to defeat Ultraman. Also, Lois and Jimmy make the story about what Lex was doing wrong, and Perry's like published it. So they published it, so now the world can know what Lex was actually doing. But then later on we learn reason why Lex was actually doing it, and it's not because of the fact that he wanted really to be king. He did all of this because he just hates Superman. That is why he did that, which is a very Lex thing to do, let's be honest here. So then Superman and Mr. Terrific head over to Lex's place. Superman takes out Lex, and Mr. Terrific stops the rift and fixes everything back to normal. Everything seems to be fine. Also, all the prisoners from the Pocket Universe are freed. Everything is put a smile on its face. Everything looks very happy, and Superman, I guess, is back in the good graces of the people. And then to end the movie, we also have the fact that Lois and Superman share a kiss. And then outside, we have the joke where it's like, how long have they been hooking up? But we do get this long scene of Superman and Lois kissing, which I actually did like. And then to end the movie, we have Superman back at the Fortress of Solitude. Supergirl comes in all drunk-like. However, unlike the Flash, this one was actually tasteful, because the Aquaman scene, I don't know, felt wrong because of the fact that Aquaman is supposed to be king now. But here, I actually like it. It works for the character of Supergirl. My sister had an issue with it, and I had to explain to her, look, Supergirl isn't supposed to be the Supergirl from CW, okay? The CW Supergirl is just a female Superman. Supergirl is a completely different character because she could not care less about humanity. All she cares about, in a sense, is Krypton, and also she's a party girl. That is basically it. It's not like the Supergirl on the CW. Supergirl on CW is just Superman, but the woman. But she basically picks up Krypto, and then we learn where Krypto got his behavioral issues with the fact that she just allows all the hitting her to happen. So that explains everything. And she then leaves, and it's like, see you in the next movie, because the next movie is going to be her movie. Also, we had a Peacemaker cameo in this movie, which I did not expect at all. Like, we got a Peacemaker cameo. But to end the movie, Superman flies off back to the Fortress of Solitude, and the robots seem to be back. Number 4 wants to be called Gary, so sure. Hello, Gary. And he's just like basking in the sunlight. The robots are like, he likes to listen to a message from his parents, and it actually is the Kents instead of his original parents. So we get to see some flashbacks of Superman on the monitor, which is nice. And there you go, the Superman movie is done. And then in the mid-credit scene, we just have Superman and Krypto sitting on the moon watching Earth, which felt like a weird scene. It felt like one of those, like, you know, moving wallpapers. And then the post-credit scene is Superman and Mr. Terrific being, you know, standing in front of a building, and Superman being like, the building's off, you know, it's not perfect. And Mr. Terrific being like, what, you want me to take the building apart and put it back together? What's wrong with you? It's like, well, it's not, it's just wrong. And then Mr. Terrific being very unhappy with Superman. And that is the end of the movie. And like I said, I very much enjoyed this movie. I did give it a score that I will stand behind. However, I wish it was just better. You know, like, I wish that Eve stuff did not happen, and it just happened because of, like, good journalism on Lois's part. They basically just hand her the W, and it's like, I kind of wish you worked for it, you know? And also, like, the fact that the Justice Gang is here as well, kind of ruining the whole, you know, like, Superman standalone movie in a way. Like, I like the fact that they're here. It feels like an actual connected universe, which I do like, but it does take away from the Superman characters that we don't really get to spend a lot of time with, like Jimmy Olsen for me. Like, standouts are obviously Superman and Lois. They are very fantastic. Love them both in the role. Cannot wait to see them again. I don't know if we'll see them again. Maybe Superman's gonna make an appearance in the Supergirl movie. I don't really see any of them really appearing in the upcoming stuff. Looking at the fact that, like, what is he gonna do in Peacemaker? What is he gonna do in Lanterns? You know, it doesn't really feel like he's gonna show up there. But my guess is he's gonna show up potentially for a sequel, if he actually gets a sequel. The movie at the time of recording this has made money that could actually confirm that we are getting a sequel, because so far the movie has made $7 according to Box Office Mojo. I'm actually looking at Box Office like, I'll look it up again. Like, before I watched the movie, Box Office Mojo was like, Superman made $7. I was like, what? What do you mean it made $7? Yeah, apparently Superman has made $7. I'm actually gonna, you know what, hey, why not? I'll put the screenshot in the video because I want to do that. It's just a funny thing. But yeah, like, apparently the movie made $7, so we are on our way, boys, in order to make the money that we need to make. But overall, like I said, I thought the movie was great. It's just, it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, because I really wanted it to be better than Man of Steel. And while there are elements that I like more in this movie, like Superman, than Man of Steel, I will still give it to Man of Steel, even though I am not one of those, like, Snyder cultists, which, a shame that exists, but whatever. They're gonna get their W because of the fact that's just how it works. I just kind of wish, like, if this movie was 2.5 hours, it would have been so much better. I'll just say that. But this is the end end of the spoiler talk because I really need to edit this stuff because I just want to go to bed, boys. I really just want to go to bed because it's getting late. I also need to walk the dog. I still haven't even eaten my egg. It is already Thursday at this moment, so I'm just gonna go and edit this and be done with it. So let me know your spoilery thoughts in the comment section down below about this movie. What did you think about it? And with that being said, thank you all so very much for watching, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you did, please like button, subscribe if you're new, if not already, turn on notifications, and don't forget to check out the Let's Play channel, link in the description and at the end of the video. And I'll see you guys next week because we're gonna be taking a look at the unbreakable man called Luke Cage, and then also in 2 weeks we're gonna be looking at Fantastic Four. So all of that is already being planned out. Got the tickets already for Fantastic Four. Super excited about that one. So yeah, I'll see you guys for all of that one. Bye.